some of us, we get ourselves in a rut and we don't think we're creative, and yet we really were born to be the most amazing creative creatures. How was you creative when you was a child?
I don't think I was creative at all. Actually, I think the environment that I was brought up in was very structured. And I think I just kind of did what I was supposed to do. And what I was supposed to do, like when I was a little kid, was just what my parents told me to do. And I was actually homeschooled until I was 8, until I moved to Canada. But even then, it was still pretty structured, I think. So I don't think there was a big emphasis on creativity in my family. But I could also be misremembering. Like, memories just get so convoluted over the years, so who knows? But I don't remember my childhood being particularly creative.
When you say structured, I mean, are you saying strict?
Yeah, pretty strict. And also I just think that things that were, let's say, artistic in nature, which I think is mostly the first thing you think of when you think creativity, were not the first things to be encouraged.
I think what Victoria's saying in his book is, if we lose where we are in terms of meaning and purpose, then a good way of trying to get back on track is to remember what we loved when we was a child. So I think that's where he's coming from.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm sure at some point I was like, oh, I didn't play hockey as a kid, but if I did, I'm sure I would have been like, hey, I want to be a hockey player, which wouldn't be particularly useful. I probably had a phase where I wanted to be a doctor or something. I don't think that would be very useful at this point in time either.
You said that you was homeschooled for a period of time. That's something that I considered with my daughter as well, just fear of education, thinking we could do a better job. And one of the things that I always worried about was how that would affect my daughter from a social aspect. I mean, what was it like for you being homeschooled? Can you remember?
So for me, I was homeschooled, like when I was homeschooled, this was in Russia. So my family moved to Canada when I was 8. And my understanding of it was we didn't live in a particularly good neighborhood, or at least the school that I would have had to go to wasn't very good. So my parents decided to homeschool me instead. And then when I came to Canada, I just started school in grade 3. And it was definitely, like, that year was like a very bad year in my life, for sure. Just because getting social after not being social for so long, and just not being exposed to what I think kids are naturally exposed to when they're socializing with a lot of other kids. I think that kind of hurt me a little bit. But also at the same time, I don't know if it's the homeschooling that did that, or just like my lack of English when I came to Canada. Like, there's so many variables, right? So I'm sure things compounded. But yeah, I would, like, based on a sample of one, I would not recommend you homeschool your kids.
I remember moving from England to Wales when I was 10 and hating my parents for it, because I had an English accent and everybody was, well, you're talking about a different language. I mean, it must have been incredibly tough for you.
Yeah, it wasn't, the first little bit wasn't great, but you learn fast as a kid. So I think after like a year or year and a half, I was fluent enough where it wasn't even a thing.
Is there anything around your childhood that you really identify with today as an adult? So, for example, me moving from Wales to England and having to deal with all that adversity turns me into like a man with, I suffer from little man syndrome sometimes now I'm older, trying to overprotect myself.
Yeah, I definitely went through some adversity as a child, and also later in my, I guess, late teen years. And I think that that's helped me, if anything, nowadays. And I think also my parents just encouraged like very hard work and grit with me when I was really young. And I think that's still with me today to a very large extent.